Hey, what's up? Friday, February 1st, 2013, episode 1 of Town Hall, a weekly video podcast in which I plan to opine on a wide variety of subjects, including but certainly not limited to news, current events, sports, and music. The goal is to give you solid content, much of which I don't have an appropriate forum to voice during my radio show. You may agree with me on some things, you may disagree on others, but I'll always give you a reason why I feel the way I do about any given topic based in fact and based in my own life experience, which is kind of the only fair way to go in my opinion. And right about now, by the way, is where I'd have like a big fancy show open if I had the budget and or the technological know-how, but I don't, so hi. I guess I'll begin with a random thought I had early this week. Our president is cool with sending a female to the front lines of combat, but he's worried about his theoretical son playing football. First things first, all right? Full disclosure, I love the brave men and women that have served and are serving in the United States Armed Forces. There aren't any human beings I hold in higher regard, in fact. And much of that's due to the fact that the man I hold in the highest of regards, my late father, served 3 tours of duty aboard the USS Constellation during the Vietnam War for the U.S. Navy. I have several other family members, incredible friends too, that have served or are currently serving, male and female, and I'm definitely not the person that would begrudge a patriot an opportunity to fight based on gender. If she has the physical and the mental makeup to stand shoulder to shoulder with her male counterparts, I say this has kind of been a long time coming. Now, to hear a president dip his toe into the world of sports during a recent speech, it's not completely unheard of. I have to say I found it slightly odd that, given the ban being lifted on women in combat, that he would worry out loud about the well-being of a son he doesn't have playing a game. Football. It's a little weird. Speaking of football, the Super Bowl is on Sunday. Baltimore Ravens representing the AFC by virtue of their big wins over Indianapolis, Denver, and New England. And the San Francisco 49ers having beaten Green Bay and Atlanta. It's been a pretty incredible run for the Ravens after what I thought was a pretty average regular season. And I was paying attention. I had Ray Rice on a couple of my fantasy teams. Luck has kind of been on their side, though. Certainly a little bit of momentum with the story of Ray Lewis. Ray Rice on the mind. Ray Lewis is on my TV right now. Having been injured and the severity of the injury he had and then having come back. So I think Baltimore's got some good momentum going into the game. I can't find one good reason, though, why San Francisco will lose this game. I think Colin Kaepernick, I think he's an X factor, and I think Flacco's good when he's good, but he's really freaking bad when he's bad. Ray Rice, there he is again. And Frank Gore, I think the two of them are a virtual wash. I think they're both very good running backs. Wide receivers, no clear advantage for either team. Both team has playmakers. Michael Crabtree, Randy Moss on the 49ers. Torrey Smith, Anquan Bolden for the Ravens. Tight ends, maybe a slight edge to San Fran with Vernon Davis coming back from oblivion in recent games. Defenses, both pretty solid, although I think the Niners, again, kind of have an advantage here. That loss to the Giants last year really stung, and I don't think that they squander the opportunity in front of them in 2013. My guess is something like 31-21. San Francisco, your Super Bowl champions. Speaking of TV, there might not be a better show on it right now than Justified Tuesday nights on FX. Having Raylan Givens back again for a 4th season, definitely a fan. Also a fan of the new series The Americans, which debuted this past Wednesday on FX. Got sort of a Spies meets Mr. and Mrs. Smith vibe to it thus far. I kind of dig it. And there's a long line of TV shows for the brain dead that I won't even bother wasting your time with. You know who they are. If you're stumped here, just watch one episode of basically any show on MTV these days and you'll realize, as I have, that we're not that far from Idiocracy, as in the movie with Luke Wilson and Maya Rudolph. If you're not familiar, you should rent it. Except that movie's based or set 500 years in the future. If you actually think shows like Ow, My Balls are that far off, you and I differ in opinion. You ever noticed how many cable stations deliver the exact opposite of what seems to be promised in regards to the name of the network? MTV, Music television? Okay. True TV? Right. The Learning Channel? Unbelievable. I can keep going. Not a whole lot of new music I'm digging on recently, but I will say the new EP from Jason Newsted. 4 songs which I've heard some describe as the way Metallica should sound in 2013. In some respects, I concur. Jason's the real deal. Not a great sign when you're surrounded by music, and not a hell of a lot catches my ear in a positive way, though. But I keep listening regardless. In my spare time, I will listen to a pretty wide variety of music, if you know anything about me. My mood dictates the preferred playlist at any given moment of any given day. So some days I'm a Shadows Fall, some days I'm a Shooter Jennings, some days I'm a Simon and Garfunkel or a Neil Diamond. And no, I don't believe in guilty pleasures. I'm not ashamed of anything I enjoy, nor should you be. The hardest people to talk music with, definitely one-dimensional types that listen to nothing but country, nothing but metal. Hell, I love a nice juicy ribeye cooked on the rare side of medium rare, but I wouldn't want to eat it every single damn meal. Throw in some pork chops once in a while, a spicy plate of pad thai, or some fettuccine alfredo. You know, don't let your ego get in the way of trying something new once in a while. Life's too short. Alright, on to Q&A. I promised I would do this. I brought it up on Facebook. Said, I don't think something like this can be even all that interesting for you to come back and watch week after week unless I involve you somehow. So, I have a few questions that were submitted by you that I'll address on this episode of Town Hall. Feel free to submit a question of your own on my Facebook wall at facebook.com/laserandyhall, or you can email me, andyhallradio@gmail.com. First question is from Todd, who didn't have a specific question in mind per se, but did want a bit of insight into my life as a music director at Laser. What are my duties? Well, as music director, I'm responsible for maintaining our music policy by overseeing the library. I conduct a weekly music meeting with my boss where we listen to new music and determine whether we'll add anything to the playlist. We also make decisions regarding the frequency at which we play new songs, too. And I also keep relationships with record reps across the country. And that's the most basic rundown of what I do here, besides the 5-hour air shift weekdays 2 to 7 p.m. If I got real specific, your eyes might glaze over because I could speak on that subject alone for hours. Next question is from Seth, who's curious about my views on the recent gun control debate. Oh boy. Fortunately, there are plenty of good, law-abiding citizens whose words I can use to echo my own sentiments. I'll start with Milwaukee County Sheriff David Clark, who actually urged us to do what we feel is necessary to protect ourselves and our families. I mean, here's a law enforcement officer telling it like it is. Calling 911, it's great if you have several minutes to spare while your life may be at stake. Taking guns from good, responsible, and law-abiding citizens that have the right to own them does nothing more than skyrocket the bad guy quotient. Bad people will always find a way to illegally obtain and possess a firearm if that's what they're aiming to do. Anyone else not surprised at all that the same government officials that are crafting new gun control legislation would be exempt from any of their own control measures? Dianne Feinstein, the senator from California, who I think is the perfect poster child for the argument for term limits in Congress, owns a concealed carry permit and has since the mid-1990s. But would she have to abide by her own proposed legislation? Absolutely not. The hypocrisy is incredible. Friends, it's about power. More for them, less for us. Can anybody give me an example of a positive outcome after the disarming of a people? Have fun with that Google search. You should find some very familiar names among that bunch, and most of them don't have very polished reputations, let's say. Now, to be fair, I realize you may not actually agree with anything I've just said. You might ask, why does anyone need an AR-15 or a gun with high-capacity ammunition capabilities, or how could less guns be bad for the country? Honestly, good questions. I'm not here to demonize someone that might look at the world through a different prism than I do. I'll just say this. The population of Chicago, about 2.7 million people. Some of the most strict gun laws in the country, yet the highest gun crime rate as well. Conversely, the population of the state of Utah is also about 2.7 million people, give or take. Virtually no major gun laws on the books in Utah, yet among the lowest gun crime rate in the country. I mean, that's just one example of why I feel more gun control is a bad idea. It doesn't work. All right, I'll close each episode with a bottom line, something to think about until the next town hall. How long has it been since you've told your family you loved them? Some of you may be familiar with Bradley's story on Facebook. It's the story of a young boy that 3 years ago was diagnosed with a very rare form of cancer, and at the time he was only 2 years old. He recently passed away, having fought an incredible battle for most of his short life. My thoughts and my prayers are with the Allen family during this difficult time. But friends, tomorrow isn't guaranteed to anyone. Take time today. Give your mom, your dad, your siblings, your husband or wife, and definitely your children, if you have them, a huge hug, and tell them how much they mean to you. Step 1 to improving the world around us. God bless. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.